Well, welcome back, South Florida. You're back with us on All Points Bulletin with Sheriff Al Lamberti. I'm your host, Al Lamberti from the Broward County Sheriff's Office, the largest fully accredited sheriff's office in America. Well, we're in our Reporter's Notebook segment. Our special guest, Anthony Tony Mann from the Sentinel, the political beat writer, and we're glad that he chose to come in. You know, we've been trying to feature media celebrities, I call them, media people that you see every day. You see their bylines, you see them on television, you hear them on the radio, but you never get to learn about them personally. And I talk about the media and law enforcement is a phenomenal partnership. And without the media working together, we really can't do our job, because a lot of times the media assists us in getting the word out there. So we want you to see some of those media partners that we deal with, learn about them personally, and get to know them. And we've had Brittany Waldman, we've had Roger Losi from Channel 10, we've had Michael Mayo from the Sun Sentinel, we've had Carrie Cobb from Channel 4, and next in that long, auspicious line is with us here today in the studio, Anthony Mann from the Sun Sentinel. Tony, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Sheriff, for having me. It's good to be here.
I appreciate you succumbing to this interview. And we've talked a lot in the past 2 years since I embarked on this, and you know, you're a great friend to us, and we appreciate you coming in here. And we want to start with what made you decide to get into journalism? It's something you always wanted to do. Where did you go to school? Tell us a little about your history. What was your first job?
It absolutely is something that I always wanted to do. In junior high school, I co-founded my junior high school newspaper, and from then on, it is something that I always really had a great interest in. Went to college for journalism. I grew up the way so many people down here in South Florida grew up in the New York area, in a New York suburb, Rockland County.
Very good.
And went to Wisconsin for school, a much colder part of the country. I wanted to go to journalism school, and that was a great experience, and got into covering student government and politics. That got me into political kinds of reporting. Stayed in the Midwest for a while, lived and worked in Illinois, in Springfield, the state capital, and covered state government and the legislature and politics there. And
always in the print media?
Always in print media, yep. Newspapers, I mean, the world is changing a lot for the media, but you know, always based in newspapers. Now it has really evolved into something multimedia. And after coming down to South Florida enough on vacations and wanting to be here all the time, I ended up in South Florida about 8.5 years ago.
Great. And always with the Sun Sentinel?
Always with the Sun Sentinel. I worked in Palm Beach County for the first few years that I was at the Sun Sentinel, and covered county government and politics up there, so I was familiar with a couple of the sheriffs there, former Sheriff Bielik, who recently passed away, and Sheriff Rick Bradshaw.
And when you applied for the job, cold turkey, saw it advertised, or just came down here and started putting out resumes, or how did that all happen that you ended up here?
I saw it advertised, and I had been familiar with the Sun Sentinel because of previous visits down here, and I knew a couple of people who worked or had worked at the Sun Sentinel, and kind of talked to them about it. But
and as far as your career at the Sun Sentinel, always in politics, or did you start out I don't know, writing obituaries like some people do?
I did. I've done well. I've done plenty of obituary writing, both early on.
Michael's laughing. See,
yeah, well,
but I know that's how you. Isn't that how you start? Like TV people, you start doing the weather.
Absolutely.
Right? So.
Although I've written obituaries this year, so that still kind of comes up at times.
Okay.
I covered county government and politics, sort of half and half, when I was in Palm Beach County, and then moving to Broward County middle of 2006, really to do politics full time for the paper, and increasingly online. I mean, the world, as I was saying before, has radically changed in terms of the media. So much is online, and I'm sure that affects your dealings with the media too. I mean, we're constantly updating news on the website, and we have a politics blog that we're constantly putting things on, oftentimes things that there isn't room for in the newspaper, and it's updated constantly, and it's evolving during the course of the day.
And people talk about that now, 24-hour news cycle, just like cable TV and the multitude of stations that have to fill that 24-hour void. I can imagine you know, that's becoming increasingly more difficult where you wrote one story a day, now it's multiple stories sometimes.
And there's good and bad to that. We're getting information out there more quickly. People are able to interact in a way that they weren't before. If something important is going on, you can write something about it and you can update it during the course of the day or even during an event. I remember it was either early this year or late last year, there was an event here in your headquarters building with the Broward legislative delegation,
Right.
and I would have been posting live reports from that legislative delegation meeting here via the internet, and people could see what was going on right away instead of having to wait until tomorrow's paper.
Right, and I've seen that with some of your reporters, like if we do a press conference here, they're actually doing with a flip camera and a laptop, actually loading it directly onto your website as the press conference is live, and it's just a total change.
Right, it's instantaneous, and I say there's good and bad to that. I mean, it gets information out more quickly. Sometimes some of those early things, there isn't as much context as you might like because you're doing it right away and you don't have that extra few minutes to give a little more thought about what's that extra question I should have asked. So as I say, good and bad to it.
Right, and every event I see you at, you're plugged in, your laptop's plugged into the wall, and you're actually doing your story almost as the event is ongoing, or actually when it's finished, you're there, you know, on your laptop doing your story right from the scene.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me, in your career, what are some of the highlights of the stories you're in about some of those things that really stick out in your mind? Corruption issues, or other things? What sticks out in your mind in your history here in Broward County?
Well, I think some of the big elections that we've had in the last few years, I mean, I would say in recent years there really was nothing like the 2008 presidential election, because there was so much public interest in everything that was going on, and even though that was a big thing happening at a high level, here in Broward County, so many people were so interested in what was going on that year. I mean, you know that, you were on the ballot in
I was part of it,
2008,
yeah.
and there was so much public interest, and I think there was a lot of optimism, and people were really involved in their candidates and put a lot of faith in their candidates, and we don't always see that kind of thing, and that was really gratifying.
And even going back probably to the 2000 election, I mean, Florida and particularly Broward County still has that reputation from the 2000 election as well. Everywhere you go, people talk about Broward County.
Absolutely, and we have seen, and we still see, international and national media will come to South Florida and Broward County to kind of get the pulse of what's going on, find out if our elections are gonna work right, and if there are going to be problems with election equipment. One of the things I found, and actually it's kind of a misnomer on some people's parts, the elections usually do run fairly smoothly.
Right.
You know, people sometimes get this idea that things go wrong with the equipment and votes aren't tabulated correctly after they're passed. But really that isn't the case. I mean, occasionally there's a glitch, but actually they do run pretty accurately, given that you have so many people casting votes every day.
Now, do you do a regular column? I know I read your columns. Do you do a once a week column in the paper itself, or every other week? How does that work?
In the paper, I'm doing news articles that run periodically depending on what's going on. When there are a lot of elections going on, there'll be certain, I'd say, more newsy things that are going on right away. In some of the off-season, I can take a more in-depth look at something. For example, right now I'm working on a big profile of Congressman-elect Allen West to let people know who and what he's really all about. And I can take a little bit more time because we don't have an election looming next week. And then I'm constantly putting things on our sunsentinel.com/Broward Politics blog. So that's where you can kind of keep up with everything that's going on.
So what was that again for the people? Was it, go ahead and give
The
your-
plug will be www.sunsentinel.com/Broward Politics.
Yeah, we're shameless here. You can plug yourself.
Thanks for the opportunity for the plug.
That's why we got you here. Okay, besides the 2008 election, what was another highlight that you think of that was really a meaty issue that you covered?
Well, there was a lot of drama in Palm Beach County, obviously surrounding the aftermath of the 2000 election, and that really kept on going during 2004, when there were still people angry, and the Kerry campaign was very active, and it resulted in the ouster of the supervisor of elections up there, who was responsible for the infamous butterfly ballot. So the impact of the 2000 campaign really was felt long after. And then, frankly, I'd also have to say covering hurricanes in South Florida. I mean, that is an amazing experience, just seeing what people go through and how agencies like yours and others respond to it.
Well, this is where I turn the tables on you. You always ask me about politics in the sheriff's office and political parties and all that, and I always tell you that there's nothing political about being sheriff. No matter what you do, it's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's just being the sheriff. I think Bob Butterworth said it best. When you're sheriff, you're not the Republican sheriff, you're not the Democrat sheriff, you're just the sheriff. I feel like there's 7 other counties in the state of Florida where the sheriff is nonpartisan, and I personally believe that's what it should be. And since you're always asking me about the politics of being the sheriff, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about the sheriff being nonpartisan in Broward County?
Well, I think that if the public had an opportunity to vote on that, I think it would pass overwhelmingly. I think just about everybody would say it should not be partisan. But the problem for those of you who would like it to be nonpartisan, and again, I think the vast majority of the public is, the only way to make that happen is for politicians who are elected, Democrats and Republicans, to take the steps to make it nonpartisan. And realistically, that's never going to happen because they don't see it as an advantage to them.
Right, and you're absolutely right, because when it was put on the ballot in Palm Beach for the sheriff to be nonpartisan, it passed with 78% of the vote. So, why shouldn't we give the voters the opportunity to decide? And let's just see what they feel.
Well, the political parties, as you know, view the sheriff's office as a big prize, and that may not be what you want it to be viewed at, but the insiders in politics, they see it that way.
Well, I've had people come up to me and say, well, why don't you do the signature route, get the signatures and get it put on the ballot that way. What do you think about that?
I think that's a tough thing to do. That's trying to get signatures for a referendum is a really tough haul.
Well, you never know. We may try. But anyway, that's Tony Mann from the Sun Sentinel, Broward politics writer. And we appreciate you being in here, Tony, and coming in with us. And we're proud that you were able to do it. We consider you a great friend. And again, it truly is a partnership between law enforcement and the media. We just couldn't do it without you guys. And we really appreciate you taking the opportunity to come on All Points Bulletin and being here with us.
Well, thank you. It was fun to be on the other end.
We'll have you back maybe right before the 2012 thing there. So election that you're going to have to cover. Not mine, the presidential one, of course. But anyway, that's Tony Mann, and we're going to be taking a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about holiday shopping safety, how to keep yourself safe during this sometimes frantic holiday shopping season. You're on All Points Bulletin, AM 1470. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Come on back.